Now let us look at what are the reference checks and how these can be done and how these are helpful. So reference check is a screening tool that enables the company to obtain information from the other sources. It can be their former or current bosses, it can be their co-workers, it can be their clients. It's very important because you will have a lot of fraudulent resumes, you will have a lot of fake claims that you have worked here or worked there. But the most important reason of doing the reference check is because you want to understand about about the candidate's performance from the real peoples, not from the candidate itself, but what the other peoples think about them. There are two types of reference checks which are references which are given by the candidates, and then there are references which are not given by candidates, so where you are going to go and talk to their previous colleagues, previous bosses directly without informing the candidate and without candidate being informing you about them. So both the responses, both the reference checks will help you to understand what are the candidates' strength, what are their weaknesses, what were the problems when they were working, what kind of challenges were there, how good they are with the clients, how good they are with the customers, how good they are with the colleagues and co-workers, their bosses, their subordinates. So you need to not only restrict your reference check to the people who are provided by the candidate, but also need to select your own reference check. But you cannot always rely on the reference checks. If the reference check is given by the candidate, those people would most likely be talking good about the candidate only because those are selected by the candidates. Those the reference checks which are not given by the candidate, those are also difficult to rely on because uh, you are not sure what kind of relationship they had, were there any personal grudges against the candidate. So you have to be very careful in relying on only on the result of reference check. Reference checks will help to understand only as a guidance or only as a prediction about the candidate. The more detailed information can only be taken when you have taken the next step on interviewing in depth. So let us look at now. So now let us look at in-depth interviewing. So what in-depth interview help to determine? So the interviews help to determine are whether the person is right for the job by looking at by talking to them in person, by understanding their career aspirations, by understanding their challenges, their skills, their strengths, their weakness. Are they confident or they are not confident? What are the source and quality of the candidate's past sales leads, length of the cycle that has been successful, whether the level a candidate has been selling to in the past, whether the candidate has worked alone or in the team, whether how good are they in dealing with the difficult situations, how good they are in working under pressure, how good they are in working against the odds when there is a lot of competition or where there is no competition. So you have to understand from the sales people, the candidate, how they have been performance. But you have to tailor made your in-depth interview questions based on the job profile that you are looking for. You cannot ask revenue management questions to a general sales coordinator or sales related questions from a revenue manager. How? Because those two are different job profiles, different requirements. So the questions that we are gonna assess here should be relevant to the job skills that we are going to interview. Whether why the candidate want to change the sales positions, why he has been changing in the past, were there any personal challenges, was it related to the company, was it related to the industry recession. A lot of time there are bad choices by the candidates in terms of selection of the company. Sometimes there are recessions, when the recessions which are a reason for move between the companies. So you have to be very understanding about the questions that we are going to ask, and there is a lot of information when we are asking which we can get while we are doing the in-depth interviews. So the in-depth interviews can be of two types. One is structured interview, another is unstructured interview. So in a structured interview, every candidate receive a standardized questionnaire where they have to answer the same questions, which is more easier when we are comparing the answers. But these kind of interviews would be relevant when the skills are very similar and it's a standard job, while the unstructured interviews would be informal interviews where the to understand the candidate, the motivational, the whether the candidate will work on their own or whether the candidate has a pattern for winning and recovering from the losses. So the unstructured interviews work for usually for higher positions. Structured interview works usually for lower positions: sales manager, coordinates, supervisors, assistant managers, or even sometimes managers. But the director levels or the business development usually would be informal interviews where you have to understand the skills or in the soft skills part of the sales candidate. The structured interview will help to compare the two between two candidates, while the unstructured interview will not help you to compare between two candidates as per se, but will be able to understand who is the right fit for the skills that you are looking for.